All right, welcome back to Digital Imaging. What we're going to do today is we're going to do a little bit of practice here. So we've talked about our WPAP portraits here. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of practice here, doing some features. So if you've noticed in like a lot of the examples of the artwork that we looked at, they're breaking down the portrait into mostly basically like three values, or if it helps you, you can think about breaking it down into like three values. So like this one here, you know, we've got like our highlights, kind of like some midtones, and then some shadows. And then they're breaking it down into like sections of values or like color here. And then throwing in like a few kind of different colors to kind of get that kind of pop art look that you see in Wpapa artwork here. So we're going to do the same thing here with this portrait. So this is kind of like a generalized portrait. And then we're going to break the portrait down into basically what are called planes. So like planes of values. This is something we do when we do like drawing or painting here. We're going to do that. And so what we're mostly going to use is we're going to use our pen tool here to do that. So you want to make sure that you're on the right workspace. So I'm on Essentials Classic. If you've used Illustrator and kind of move some stuff around, remember you can always reset some stuff here. Okay. For the colors, I've got like a bunch of different colors that you can choose from. So like highlights and shadows of like different colors here. So like some blues, some kind of pinkish colors here, some reds, some purples, and some greens, and like some yellows here. So you can kind of do it in whatever color you want here. You want to make sure that you're on the right layer here. So you should be on this photos layer here. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in. That's going to give me some more control here, and then I'm just going to grab my pen tool and let's change our stroke here. I'm going to give it kind of like a light sort of red stroke here, and that way I can kind of see what I'm working on here. And so I'm just going to start with some of the easiest parts here. So like I'm going to start with this kind of section here and kind of fill that in here. Okay. With the pen tool, you want to make sure that you're not kind of like connecting pieces here. So like if you notice, I started like in the corner here and then try to make sure that I don't like fill that in. So then now what I'm going to do is kind of like, I'm just going to show you how you can kind of fill these in. I'm going to press I on the keyboard to kind of fill in some of those highlights here. Okay. So now, I'm just going to keep going here. Notice I'm not starting here because sometimes that kind of tricks the pen tool. So I'm going to start like over here and do that. Okay. These parts are probably kind of the easiest parts. And then I'm going to change this back to a red stroke here. I'm going to get rid of this fill. Okay. I'm going to zoom in and then I'll just kind of keep making my pieces here. There's a lot of like really kind of like small details in this portrait too. So I'm like looking at like that ear. I'm going to hold Alt. Oops. I'm going to hold Alt and bring in my handle here. But I'm looking at that ear to see like some of those details. We can kind of simplify stuff so you don't have to include kind of like every single detail that you see there. I'm holding Alt to kind of like adjust my handles here. You know, this is still kind of using the pen tool to draw stuff out, but we've been doing like a lot of kind of different stuff with the pen tool. So you should be starting to get pretty good at the pen tool. Okay. Usually when I start something like this, I always try to kind of start with sort of like the easiest parts first, and then kind of move on to more kind of difficult parts. This side of the head, I'm just going to kind of break down into basically like kind of one sort of like big value here. I'm going to hold Alt, kind of bring this handle in. Oops. I'm going to step backwards. I'm going to press Control Z. Okay. Yeah, I don't know if you noticed there, but it kind of, Illustrator thought I wanted to kind of pick up on that section there. So I want to start in like a different part. It just kind of makes it a little bit easier here. So I'm starting in areas where there's like not not like a pre-existing anchor point. I'm going to hold Alt, bring the handle in. I'm also going to make this shadow above the eyebrow, kind of like one section. And then same thing, I'm going to start over here. There's lots of different ways we could be doing this too. So, I'm trying to make sure that I don't have any like spaces here. To do this here. And I could also be using kind of like my shape builder tool for this. But like the pen tool will like totally work here for this. Okay, so then I'm just kind of moving along here. This big part here will be like kind of one big piece here. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to make this all kind of like one solid piece. I'm going to bring the handle all the way in on this part here. We could do also kind of like a gradient on some of these, but I think we're just going to keep it pretty simple on this. Yeah, this will all be kind of like one big value. So let's do this eyebrow too. I'm going to hold Alt and bring the handle all the way in. I'm going to hold Alt, bring the handle all the way in. And this shadow will be kind of like one big piece. And then let's make the eye. And then let's make this shadow here underneath the eye. So come around here. We'll make this kind of like one big shadow. I'm gonna do this shadow underneath the eye here. I'm gonna simplify this shadow underneath, even though it's like pretty much two values, kind of a light value and like a dark value. I'm just gonna make it kind of like one piece here. And then it's gonna be hard for me to get in there with the pen tool, so I think I might actually make a copy. Nope. I think I'll try to make it here. So let's start like right here. And then do that. Okay, so then now I'm doing kind of like these other planes. Same thing, I'm going to simplify this jaw, part of the jaw here, into kind of one plane, one shape here. Okay, and then same thing with the ear. Let's do like 1, 2, 3. Let's do like 3 pieces here. So I'm going to do this highlight on top of his ear, and that'll be kind of one piece. And then we'll do kind of like the whole side of the ear. I'm gonna hold Alt, bring the handle in, and then do that. It's kind of like one piece. And then this part. So I gotta deselect this line, and then I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna start off like right below the line there, and then do that. Okay. So then I need to do like some of these parts for the nose here. So I'll start here. I'm also going to simplify the nose a little bit. So these under parts of the nostril where you see a few different shadows, I'm going to simplify that as well. So we'll make this kind of like all one value here. Yeah, let's make this kind of all one value here. And then we'll do a shadow for this nostril. And then everything else you can kind of fill in here. Let's do his the lips here. We'll do that as one value. I'm gonna hold Alt on this, bring that all the way into my anchor point, and then come down here. Okay, this underside of the lip will be one value. Okay, this part will be one value here. Okay. This lip, sorry, the chin, under part of this chin here, let's make this all one value. I'm going to kind of flatten it out here. Okay, there's this middle part of his chin will be a value. I'm just going to curve that just a little bit. And then let's actually just make this whole ear part. We're just going to put this in shadow, and we'll simplify this here. Even though we can see some different details, we'll kind of simplify it a little bit. And now I'm just, following the curve here of the lines that I've already done. Okay, let's make, I'm going to start here, and then this shadow will be a value. This, let's make all this kind of one value. Oops. I'm going to step backwards. I didn't click on that anchor point to kind of complete that path. And then it's, let's see, is that everything? I think so. We've just got these like two more pieces here. So let's go along this line here. Yeah, we'll have, I'm going to step backwards. We'll have this be we'll make this base part of this pedestal all one value. So I'm going to go down towards the edge of the artboard, and then the last thing will be this left side of their neck here. Okay, so then now we can use our eyedropper tool. So I'm going to select these sections here, So this is, I can also like, you know, make up. It's probably kind of more of a value like that. I'm going to use V so to grab my selection tool, and then I to select stuff. And I'm gonna make a few different values. I need kind of a few more values here. So I'm gonna make another kind of mid value here. Let's do that. This is kind of like a darker value. I'm going back and forth with V and I. Oops. I need to zoom in a little bit. I'm having trouble selecting different pieces. I need like a really kind of dark blue. So I'm gonna make like a really dark blue. So I'm gonna grab this. I'll have these colors for you guys. But I'm just gonna make like a real kind of dark blue black here. Because these shadows are pretty dark. Let's do this one as this kind of like dark. And then I even need for like this, just like a almost black. So we'll make this really dark value too. That's my dark value. Okay. Oh, looks like I didn't make this section here. I'm gonna just kind of go a little bit off the edge here. I'm gonna hold Alt, bring the handle in. You can also change kind of like how things are situated, so like the layering of things. So if you need something to kind of tuck behind other things, you can do that. Yeah, it looks like I need to make another value too. Another section, that kind of middle section for the nose here. Okay. Yeah, I'm missing a few kind of small pieces. I just sent that to the back because and it'd be underneath that shadow for the nostril. I'm kind of making guesses here on, you know, how some of these colors look. I'm gonna grab this and I'm just gonna put this behind here. So I needed to fill that section in. Same thing with this. I'm just gonna grab a shape and kind of put that underneath there. So that's one way you can do it. So if you have kind of like some pieces that are, it's too hard for you to get kind of in there, you can just make a general shape, and as long as it's like in the back there, no one's gonna know that it's just like a square when it really looks like kind of a triangle, if that makes sense. Okay, so there's my kind of portrait here. So that looks pretty good.